Hello. I
Hi.
think we're live. Any sign of life is appreciated after a long list of tech issues. How is this looking on the other side? Is anyone with us?
Yeah, I'm just
Or
checking. It says
just
the
two
event
of
will
us?
still start soon.
No? Yeah, looks like it's just you and I. Oh no.
What would you like to do?
Serena is here, so you can hear us. Can you see us as well? All good.
Oh,
Wonderful.
okay.
Fantastic. Only 12 minutes late, but we figured this one out. Oh my goodness. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
those of us waiting for us.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone that's been holding out there. So appreciate that very much. Dan,
Yes,
I'll let you kick us off.
yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So StreamYard really didn't want us to go live on LinkedIn today, but we persisted and we're here. Thank you so much for everyone waiting for us. We were so looking forward to this conversation. So great. Laura is here. Serena is here. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you guys. So we have prepared a fantastic session for you all. Sam Strong and I, we have been working on something to share with you all today. Welcome to all of you who attended the first Real Bridge. This is the second session of Real Bridge, and we're thrilled to be here. We have prepared a conversation that I've received so many questions. This topic is coming up all the time. We are in the time when the roles are shifting, the change is everywhere we look in. So we are continuously looking at what is going on the work market, what's next for the industry, what's next for me. And honestly, it's a big question, and I can't promise we'll give you all the answers today, but we'll share everything we know with you, and hopefully some of us will, some of the information that we can share with you of our experience of what we're seeing may help you to answer that question. So I'm thrilled to have Sam with me. He's navigated so much in his own career that I want to all of you to learn more today. He has applied a lot of it also on his own career, and now sharing more with people looking to sharpen their own CVs and applications in finding their right next step. So we'll talk about his journey, about CVs, about careers, about the work market, and obviously any questions that you may have, please put them in the comment box. We will address them as we move through. This conversation will be only about my own personal experience as a recruiter with over a decade of experience, mostly focusing on experienced and executive level hires, and Sam's personal experience as well. So Sam, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Dana.
So I'll kick it off by asking you about really about your own journey. I know it's been full of pivots and twists and turns. So what can you share us? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So thank you again, and hi, everyone. In terms of a kind of quick snapshot, I've probably spent about over 10 years now in both recruiting and resume writing. Most of my experience has been for the North American market, with some experience in the UK and Australia as well, just because that's where my organizations had a presence. In terms of the types of organizations, it's typically been tech companies, startups, and also some health tech organizations. Back when I worked in the recruitment agency world, it was a kind of variety of different organizations. But what I think I have enjoyed about my career is being able to have seen what it's like on the agency recruiting side, as well as the internal talent team recruiting side as well. And that's really where I kind of draw my experiences from when it comes to resume writing and helping individuals navigate this kind of process. Still there, Dana?
Anyone that you thought, oh, this feels risky, but in the end, you can see why that had to happen and turned out to be the best move.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, Dana, it froze just a second. Can you start the first part of the question? Dana?
Sam seems to be lagging. I know for a fact that Sam's career has been full of really. Hey, we're back.
Hey, I think there's a lag. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you again. It was a bit of a
back.
black box.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, you asked about pivots. Is that correct?
Yes. So I was curious about pivots in your career that felt risky at the time, but then in the end really turned out to be the best move to do.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've definitely kind of pivoted maybe a couple of times. I think the first major pivot was actually when I left recruitment altogether and I studied joinery for 6 months. And then I returned to the recruitment industry in an internal recruitment. So definitely leaving recruitment felt really risky. I'd been doing it for a few years at that time and decided to pursue a trade, or at least educate myself in a trade. Decided that the overall industry wasn't for me. I still have a passion for it. But 2 weeks vacation for the rest of your life just wasn't something that I was interested in. So I went back into recruitment and I pivoted into tech recruitment. It felt really risky at the time because I had no prior experience in tech recruiting. And so software developers, product managers, not only were these roles new to me, but the overall industry and blockchain was also very new to me. So it felt like a double kind of challenge, if you will. But ultimately, that gave me one of the best experiences. At the time, worst experiences, but I walked away from it. I think, 10 times stronger in terms of resilience, and also what I was able to do in that organization ultimately landed me my most incredible career role, which was leading recruitment for two markets, the US and Canada, for a global health tech organization. And that experience felt risky at the time. Again, no healthcare experience prior to joining, but it ended up being the best career experience.
Yeah, fantastic. Anything that after all the pivots you've made, anything that you feel that, oh, I wish I knew that before? Anything that you could share with us that that somebody can learn from us versus their own kind of mistakes?
When it comes to pivoting, if it's either roles or industries, I wish I'd known that, in some cases, some people will see it as a positive, right? You can thrive in multiple industries and different roles. And then in some cases, I think it can also limit your career, right? If you've been doing 10 years in, healthcare recruiting, then in some cases, it might be easier for you to go from, coordinator, manager, director, chief, right? Because you have that wealth of industry experience. And well, it's not set in stone. Again, it's subjectively interpreted. I've just noticed, I find that as you get more senior, right, a lot of industry experience is valued. And if you pivot industries from tech to healthcare to manufacturing to something else, right? You don't necessarily develop that deep knowledge, and that sometimes can be limiting.
Yeah. Well, I can add that, oh my God, now 15 years ago when I started my executive search consulting experience, the one thing that there was this really experienced search consultant, and the one thing they said, well, look at the pivots that a talent has done in their career and what they've made out of it and how successful they were. Look at the lessons that they learned in each of them, and that is going to give you a track record on how they're going to perform if they had to do another one. And the more of them they've done, the more experienced they've gathered how to learn and how to settle and how get up to speed in a new place where they have no previous understanding, but they can take what they've gathered before, the experience and knowledge, and apply it in the new place, whether it's a new industry or a new function or a different size and a setup of a team or geography. So that was something that I thought, that's an interesting way to look at it. Back then in my young kind of consultant, not very much experience, that was an interesting thing that I learned back then, and I can absolutely see how that message has stayed with me throughout my career to date.
Yeah, I think it is definitely subjective, where some people value it and other people shy away from it. So it's definitely not a rule by any means, right? I'm not saying that if you pivot, you'll never be able to grow your career. I just feel like I wish I'd known that. Now looking back, kind of how much it can be interpreted. Can I just do a quick check? Well, can someone drop in the comments and just make sure that we're able to hear and see? Just because I know there's been some tech issues. Our apologies.
Yes.
And thank you for whoever's still here and giving us that feedback. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. If we were to be in a place, Sam, now to think, okay, I want to do something else. I want to start a new life in a new country. I mean, I know you've done this. I've done this. It's increasingly challenging with various geopolitical and social challenges that we're seeing in the work market. What would be your advice? How do you apply for roles like that? And how do you make your CV stand out and get picked up?
For me, when it comes to any kind of move or pivot, whether that is moving country or moving roles or moving industry, number one would be understanding what your objective value proposition is. And what I mean by that is lots of people can say, I'm a good communicator, I'm a hard worker, and I can navigate ambiguous environments. And ultimately, unfortunately, that is all garbage speak, right? It's super high level, it's super vague, and that's not what people get hired on. If I think about my objective value statement, and I do this by thinking about three things: my years of experience, the types of roles that I've been paid for, and then the types of organizations quantified by headcount and revenue, then I can say I have 10 plus years across agency and in-house recruiting for global tech and health tech organizations ranging from 60 employees to 2,000 plus employees and up to $1 billion in revenue. That what I'm saying there is that those are three objective facts, and my value in this market would be most aligned with organizations of a similar industry, similar size, in roles that I've been paid for. So I first think about that, especially for an international move. I want to be able to say, look, I've done the role and I fit in the organizational structure that you currently have. So as many kind of like tick boxes and alignments.
Yeah.
When it comes to pivoting careers, okay, standing out, I would say if pivoting roles or industries, then again, bringing the facts is going to be important. For example, I'm a recruiter. If I wanted to pivot into marketing, then what I can think about is the three different types of pivots. I can do the same role, different industry, different role, same industry, or different role, different industry. The third is the most difficult type of pivot to make. So for me, if I wanted to pivot in this market, if I wanted to pivot roles, I would try and choose a similar industry, but a different role. So what I mean by that is my industry is recruitment. So I would think about recruitment as an industry, and I would think about job boards, right? Can I move into marketing for a job board? Can I move into marketing for an applicant tracking system software, leveraging my recruitment experience to market that product? I have alignment. So when it comes to pivoting roles, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice for people in this market, is to understand what type of pivot that you're trying to make, and then target where you're going to have the most alignment.
I'm gonna challenge you here. If I wanted a marketing role right now, I would branding experience, so employer branding experience. I will link my branding experience with my employer currently and try and make my way into internal marketing teams. Start a stretch assignment, start working on a project with them, try to show them the work that I've done internally, hopefully get some strong internal sponsors that can vouch for my performance, and that would be my first step to explore that route.
So navigating internal roles first, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely say if that is an option for you, absolutely do that as well, because that would probably result in the lowest barriers as well. So I would say even that would probably be like one of the easiest pivots, right? Is existing organization and then looking externally. So yeah, I would agree that maybe your approach would be like the number one approach. For if someone's unemployed at this time, right, and looking and also trying to pivot, then I would say, yeah, some of the things I mentioned would be applicable, but you're right, that would be the best move.
Correct. So if I hear you correct, the less change from your current or latest experience, the higher the chance of you landing the role faster and more efficiently, which means that if you're moving country, don't move the industry and function. If you're moving function, don't move the industry or location. I mean, all of it is possible. And I know that whenever I discuss this topic on my LinkedIn with my network, there's always people say, oh, I've done it all at the same time. Yeah, you had strong referrals, right? So that helps. And I think maybe that is potentially our next next topic of discussion: referrals and sponsorship. What has been your experience in your career, Sam, with this? Does it work? Does it always work? Is it worth putting effort into it?
Do you mean specifically for getting sponsored? Is that the question?
Yeah. I mean, of course, we know that having a strong sponsor is a great way to success. But we also know the amount of effort and time that takes, and there's no guarantee that the right person at the right time and the right place will be able to support you.
Can I also clarify, when you say sponsor, you don't mean sponsorship for a visa, you mean a referral?
No, I mean a referral, really a senior leader who is interested and willing to vouch for your capabilities and talent.
Yeah, very difficult, but it's very difficult to get a referral, but it's also all you will hear in the market, right? Is you need a referral, right? How do you get something that is so valuable yet also so difficult to get? So for me, just like some couple of examples, okay? I think out of the 9 jobs that I've had, I was referred for 6 of them, and in those roles, those referrals were existing employees, some were senior, but one thing that I will note is those referrals, one I had never met, and the rest were actually friends or friends of friends or acquaintances. So they were one removed from me. I'd either crossed paths with them once, but basically the key thing is there's been many data points and studies that show that it's not your close friendship group that often is the referral. It's actually usually people that don't know you too well that are more likely to refer you or can lead to a really solid referral. So I encourage people to not necessarily just think about their immediate existing kind of close network. And an example I'll give you is the first role that I got was a professional role, was a receptionist job at a recruitment firm. And before that, I'd worked in retail, and I really struggled to navigate the pivot from retail, lower skilled work, in getting my first professional office 9 to 5 job, which I desperately wanted. And I also volunteered for an organization called Community in Vancouver. And as part of a volunteer, I just did kind of like reception, and there was a recruiter / career coach that was coming into the organization to deliver a presentation. Unfortunately, I had to work and I missed the event. I couldn't meet this person. I really wanted to go. So I emailed her and I said, hey, I really wanted to attend your session. I couldn't make it. Like, would you be open to sending me the materials that you handed out? And when is your next one? I really want to join. She said, absolutely, here's some materials, let me know how you get on, and I'll let you know when I'm doing the next one. And I responded, I said, thank you so much. If it's okay with you, like, here's my resume, keep it on file. She was absolutely great about it. 3 months later, I see a job. It's a reception part-time job. I'm interested in it. I've completely forgotten about this recruiter. But I go on LinkedIn and I search for the company, and immediately it tells me you have one person in connection to this role. It's the recruiter. It's the same recruitment firm. And I didn't put two and two together at the time. I email her and I said, hey, I'm not sure if you remember, we spoke a few months ago. I saw this role. I'm wondering if it's okay with you. Before I express interest, would you even consider someone with a background like me? Right? I didn't want to waste this person's time. So I sent my kind of updated resume. She messaged me back and said, I've got you an interview for Thursday. Just come in. And I was like, are you kidding? And this person had never met me, right? Obviously, it was her job to still recruit and bring in. But she brought me in because I was polite in my email communication. I didn't pester her, right? And she remembered that. And this person who had never met, all we had in common was we volunteered for the same organization, and we'd exchanged a couple of emails. And that's how I landed in recruitment.
It's interesting because Natalie is asking, as recruiters, can we share numbers of people we recently hired with referral versus not referred? I mean, in my case, of course, I can talk about amount of referrals and impact on that. And I guess in your experience, Sam, also you have in your consulting role, you see how many of your clients get that offer that they so want with the referral or without. And Natalie, what I can share is the more senior the recruitment, the more likely there will be some sort of referral or sponsorship. If we're talking about middle level management or even earlier in career, the lower the rates of referrals in that space there will be. What I can tell you for sure is that there is definitely way less than 30-40% overall if we generally look at the whole body of placed candidates, in my experience, across industries, across geographies. This number has not increased. Quite the contrary. We're all busy. We're all not looking for jobs for other people. So I think the amount of referrals has not increased. The amount of applications has increased dramatically. So if the place where you're coming with this question is, does it even sense to apply without a referral? I know that I have been asked this question on multiple occasions. My answer is a strong yes. The referral does not mean that you will get hired. Referral means that your application will be even more carefully reviewed. And if it's relevant and if it really is what the hiring team is looking for, you will get the initial screening call. but there are no guarantees that you will be selected candidate at all. If there is a short list of, let's, for the sake of example, imagine 3 strong candidates, one of them has a referral, the other 2 don't, and they go through the assessment process, an equal assessment process to see who will be the selected. In very rare occasions, the referral will skip the decision scale. It will be the strongest candidate that will be selected. What's been your experience in this, Sam?
My experience aligns with like under 30-40% for hired. What I would say, Natalie, thank you for that question. And that was people you recently hired with a referral versus not referred. I want to call out as well, there's obviously a difference between who gets the initial interview and who gets hired. So I would say getting a referral, I think, has a higher chance of more attention to the profile or more consideration. So I think referrals can be great for getting an initial interview, especially if it's a strong referral, like someone that has worked with you previously. That's obviously, I would say, one of the best referrals is someone that's worked with you, right, as a colleague, or someone that you that used to report to you, right, a direct manager. And I would say referrals have, for me anyway, I've probably had like a 60 to 80% personal interview rate when I get referred, right? I've typically had strong referrals. So if I have someone that refers me for a job, most of the time have gotten an interview, but I would say that it has no correlation with hiring, right? I still have to perform in the interview. I still need to be a qualified candidate. So just to keep in mind, just to clarify again, is like getting the initial screen and hiring and being referred, right? I think those are 2 very different experiences, at least from a personal perspective of mine.
Fully agree, Sam. And there's a compliment that starting a message, would you consider, is a very respectful and powerful one. I fully agree. Coming across not demanding, not intrusive, not asking for favors from people you don't actually know personally. I think it really is a key. And if I had to make a wild guess, I think the reason why you got that interview was because the recruiter so appreciated the way how you went about communication with her previously, by showing eagerness to learn and do the extra mile to get access to the knowledge she had to share in the session where you couldn't take part of. So I have no doubt that there's more than what meets the eye typically.
Thank you, whoever mentioned that. I hope it helps you.
Absolutely. And I know, and maybe now is a good time. I know that a while back you made a post about how to reach out to people on LinkedIn. And I thought that one was so simple but so powerful. Do you mind sharing this with viewers?
Yeah, I'll need to figure out what that post was. I can't remember it, but I can share that my general approach to reaching out to individuals is number one is I always give them a free pass to not respond. And for me personally, that has worked, right? I'm not saying this works across the board or this is what you must do, but what I'm saying for me, if I'm reaching out to someone that I have never spoken to before, right, a stranger, and ultimately I am looking for something from them, whether it's help or a referral or I'm trying to land an interview, I'm always going to give them a free pass to not respond, right? So I would say something like, hi, Dana. Sam here. I'm sure you get lots of messages, so there's no need to respond to this. I understand, right? I'm giving you a free pass. So when you get that message, I want you to feel like, okay, this person's not causing me extra work or extra guilt for not being able to respond. That's what I want to elicit in terms of an emotion. It's just like almost a sigh of relief. Oh, this person is different to 99% of the other people that fill up my inbox. And then I want to be clear about what it is that I'm looking for, why, and then closing that. So I might say, I saw that you posted a director of recruitment role for your UK market. If you have a moment, or I hope you don't mind if you would consider my background briefly. You know, led recruitment this, led teams of this, background is in this. And then I would say, again, I'm sure you have a ton of great candidates anyway. So again, no need to respond. I appreciate you viewing this message and wish you the best in your search.
And attach your CV.
And attach my CV. I might attach my CV. I might mention. Well, in that case, Dana, I probably would have already applied, so that it's in the system, and I would have applied directly on the company website. So I might say I've also applied.
Mention you have applied, yes, because a lot of people, when they send that message out, they haven't applied. They think that this message is enough, and it isn't. So apply and mention that I've applied already. And in case you want to take a quick look at my CV, see it attached, because if I'm reading your message and I have your CV attached and I know that you've applied with it already, I can just pull it up and look at it right there in that spot. If you tell me I've applied and do not attach the CV, that means I need to log into my ATS. I need to look it up. And sometimes the name on LinkedIn does not fully match your official name that you've applied with. And then I can't find you. And then it's just like, forget it.
Excellent tip. Include your CV. Yeah. And what I would say is, like, I wouldn't say like I've included my CV. Can you give me feedback? Right. I would just say for reference. Yes. And the goal, again, I imagine you probably get hundreds of messages per week, right? I don't want to be another person asking for your time. Please, can you do this for me? Can you give me a call? When is a good time to chat, right? I'm not going to use that sales tactic to try and schedule a time. But yeah, how are we being with time? Should we switch to questions?
Yeah, we can slowly go into the questions. There are some interesting questions, and Sibyl, for example, on the topic of internal referrals, she goes like, they also get you nowhere. Big companies are not always transparent what they're looking for internal candidates already lined up. Look, Sibyl, yes. So there's no guarantee that the referral is going to guarantee you an interview. Nobody is going to guarantee you anything. So applying for a job with or without a referral is trying your chances. We all know that the volumes these days are truly extraordinary. So yes, a referral will ensure that the hiring team will review your application. It depends. It really depends. The referral is not enough. You need to ensure that your application is strong, that your experience is strong. And at the end of the day, it always depends on who you're competing with. So you have, and I have, in my experience, I've seen some incredible, talented, smart, capable, successful candidates applying for roles that they are truly a great match. But I have 20 of them, and I cannot talk to all of them. In order for me to screen a candidate, I need somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes. And I do not have the time to screen all of them. So any recruiter who values their own and their leader's time and the candidate's time will start from the strongest, from the closest match, from the candidates that they really believe will be the best use of everyone's time, and they will be the ones to get screening. When we're talking about internal candidates, yes, there is also internal candidates in most of the large organizations, pipelines, and application pools. So do they all get screening calls? I can assure you they don't. They need to follow the same rules. They are held to the same standard of the amount of expertise. Yes, some of them may have strong internal sponsors, back to what we were discussing before, which means that they have a closer access to the hiring leader. Does that mean that they will be selected over an external who has a much more in-depth experience in the particular field? No, there's no guarantees. Sam, what has been your view on, internal referrals and internal candidates?
Yeah, internal referrals. It also depends who's referring you, right? Like I've been on has many internal referrals, and sometimes it's just friends referring their friends, but they have absolutely no relevant experience, right? Of course, they're not going to get an interview. And then other times it's someone that says, "Look, this used to be my direct report at my last company. They worked in a different, but direct report in my last company. They're not necessarily a direct fit for this role, but I can vouch for their performance, right? And that is also different. So it also depends on the type of referral and who's advocating for you. But I would agree, like sometimes they get you nowhere. And like Dana, you said, they're not a guarantee. Like they were never a guarantee for me either. So yeah, it's just, the nature of hiring. Sometimes we're never going to get the answers that we really hope for as a candidate.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to mention, and I know that this is a little bit controversial, and not a lot spoken about, is that when we look at the job post, we see the requirements for the role, we see the desired experience, and we see, a very rough description of the role. I think we all agree that a lot of vacancies posted, could use a lot more accurate information, let's put it that way, on what the role truly is about. However, even the best description in the world is not going to give you insights into what's happening with the team, what's happening with that part of the business, what are the dynamics, what are the requirements, what are the other team members that potentially the leader is trying to balance out certain types of experience or certain aptitudes. So nobody's ever going to put that into the job post. And so you as a candidate, whether internal or external, it really doesn't matter. You are oftentimes not seeing the full picture that the hiring team does. Sometimes even the recruiter doesn't see the full picture because there are things that maybe the hiring leader is planning for the future but didn't think it was relevant to share with the recruiting team. So there's things that sometimes get considered that you have no visibility on, which I want to say, and that's fine. There will always be ambiguity and there will be always unknowns in every area of job search process. I think what we need to focus on, and this is also something that I have recently kind of encouraged my network on LinkedIn, focus on the things that you can influence. Focus on the things that you can impact on your network, on the quality of your application, on the targetedness, and how sharp your application is when you look for that next step. And by that, I don't mean you need to tailor your application for every single job. And I know, Sam, you will have an opinion on this point too. Yes, it's important to ensure that your application is for that particular role in that particular industry, but you don't need to rewrite it fully. Am I correct?
Yeah, I don't recommend rewriting the whole resume for every application. I just recommend tweaking it. And my YouTube has a video on how to do this. But yeah, Dana, there's a couple of questions that I think we might have missed. Is it okay if I address them quickly?
Yeah, please.
And then just to catch up, okay? So I just want to go back. Marcel asked, if you come from technology companies, what do you think about saying upfront in your cover letter and messages that you're intentionally looking to move to an industry with more relevance in Calgary or city? Okay. For me, yeah. For me, that type of information is most appropriate in a cover letter to explain why, right? You wouldn't usually explain why you want to make a move, etc., in a resume. The resume is more factual reflection of your accomplishments. So yes, in a cover letter, that would probably be the most appropriate place to do that. Whether companies read cover letters or individuals, right? Individuals read them is up for debate. Some do, some don't. But I would say for the most part, that is the most appropriate place to do it. The other question was, do you prefer an actual reference letter or is a list of references sufficient equal to the reference letter? I think for me, I think reference letters, right, have less relevance, but also I would align with what the company asks for, right? At the reference stage, you will probably be given specific instructions for references, so align with that.
At most, add in that reference is available. But to be honest, I know that if I interview you and I ask you, could you provide some references, that vast majority of candidates will be happy to do that. So I don't think at the early application stage there is need for either. And I know that it's a little bit of an outdated practice to put in your reference numbers or names or email addresses on your CV of people that could vouch for you. I do not recommend doing this strongly because the data is quite sensitive. You don't know where your CV will be passed on to, and this is not your data. This is the data of your referees. So I do not recommend doing that.
Same. Also, from an applicant tracking system perspective, I've worked with some where people have included references, phone numbers, and emails, and the applicant tracking system has parsed their contact information instead of the candidates. So this is another, I would say, from a recruiter lens, right? This is why recruiters who have used applicant tracking systems know and would recommend certain practices.
And so that there is a question still about networking, how increasingly important it is. And Eunice is asking about advice to job seekers about balancing applying to roles online versus proactively reaching out to hiring managers and recruiters.
For me, I would do both. Those are two things that you can control. I would apply to roles online directly at the company website. At least in my experience, that's been a better experience for candidates and recruiters, applying directly on the company website. And if you can reach out to hiring managers and recruiters, especially if you have second connections to them, then I would recommend that. I don't think it's an either or. I think it is, leaning into both. For me personally, I would probably lean more towards applications. I kind of just like to follow what the company is asking us to do, and then if I can leverage my network, I will.
Yeah. A fun fact, a vast majority of candidates actually do not follow what the job post asks them to do. Do you have some experience with that?
Lots, yeah.
So if you can follow really simple instructions, you're already ahead of most applicants. So, and then Jake is asking about companies who say they hire based on aptitude, but then hire someone who's just done the same job before. How do you sell your aptitude, Sam?
For me, Jake, this is a really good question. For me, aptitude, right? Again, this is my personal opinion on it, is companies will say this type of stuff, right? We hire people who are good with ambiguity. We hire based on aptitude. These things are said on websites because they look good. They make people feel good and they get applicants. The reality is kind of what we're facing is, the least risk to an organization is someone who has done the job before, has good, strong accomplishments, as well as recommendations and references from other industry peers. It just makes sense. Ultimately, I would say that you can't really sell aptitude because aptitude is also subjective, right? Some people will consider it one way, or some people will interpret another way. Ultimately, also, I would say, like, if I was in an organization, if I started a healthcare organization, my default is I'm going to want healthcare experience, right? It's just something that we can't, it's really hard to fight or sell against that, unfortunately.
Especially in a market that is as competitive as I've ever seen before in my career, when there's so much talent, really accomplished talent, who have done things before that the hiring team is looking to achieve. It is a very, very challenging environment to compete against.
Correct.
Any other questions, Sam, that you
Marcella, I
see?
think we've kind of covered that. Reach out hiring manager, or we should go to the recruiter first. See if you can get a second connection to someone. But I think the debate of hiring manager or recruiter, I think you're going to hear different levels of effectiveness. Some people will say, I heard back from the recruiter. Other people will say, I heard back from the hiring manager. I think if you can lean on your network, that's what I would do first.
But I will just add that recruiters typically get a lot more messages than hiring managers, but they also are dedicated to this area. So it really depends.
Casper, how can you effectively reach out to a recruiter or the hiring organization for questions or follow-up when applications are increasingly managed through ATS like Workday? Casper, I would, I mean, you can effectively reach out on LinkedIn. For questions for follow-up, I don't know if you mean before receiving an interview or after receiving an interview. If you have the recruiter's email because you're corresponding regarding interview and scheduling, then you can use that. But if you're an applicant and the organization has not engaged in conversation with you, I would say it wouldn't necessarily be common practice or appropriate to expect for your follow-up questions to be answered. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, Dana? That
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Fatima is asking about qualities or signals you look for early in career CVs when a candidate doesn't tick every requirement. What tends to make one genuinely stand out from the pile?
For me, like just simple column format and then like being clear about your accomplishments. A lot of early stage individuals try to oversell, overfluff, make up for experiences that they don't have. And that ends up being kind of like AI drivel or just like it's just over the top. So I think qualities are signals, right? We just want professional layout, professional LinkedIn profile. And then in this current market, I would say for early stage careers, it's everyone wants full-time permanent roles and everyone's competing for those. My one piece of advice, because it's based on my own experience, is if you're in your earlier career, try and get temp jobs. Temporary work has a lower barrier to entry and honestly doesn't have the full eye of the market. People disregard those. My first professional job was a receptionist as a temp in a recruitment agency. But once I was in that organization, I worked my behind off. I met with all of the hiring managers. The managing director could see how hard I worked. And then I ended up getting promoted into a full-time role. And that's an example of the hidden job market where a temp was considered for a permanent role and they didn't have to post because that role existed as a temp and then they converted it. So there's lots of hidden job market. Does it exist? I think it's overinflated, but I think there are some real examples where you can get in as a temp and convert to perm, and that post in some case that job is never posted or advertised because they recruited from the temp pool. So for me, that's an example of the hidden job market.
Absolutely. And how do you stand out from the pile of CVs? I think what I will add is ensure that you really are very clear on what is the job that you're applying, because oftentimes, and this is not only early in career, but like at any level, oftentimes it feels like this CV has been sent to every possible job opening on planet Earth, and the reader sees no resemblance of why is this person applying for this job. So if I read your application and I see that you know exactly what you're applying, and like the other viewer commented, oh, do I say that I'm looking to pivot the industry in Calgary? Oh, okay, though then I know why is this person applying, right? Ensure that your motivation and interest is clear. And I think in early in career CV, where you may not have a lot of experience, I think your summary at the top of your CV, Sam, please add to this. I think this is the critical piece where you have the chance to demonstrate, why are you applying, what are your objectives in your career, why are you interested in this particular company or this particular industry.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to say, you might say, you know, aspiring this, right? Make it clear that you're being intentional about your career rather than just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. And that can help for early stage careers. Laura what is your view on unsolicited applications in large companies? Is it worth trying? I'm not too sure what you mean by that, Laura. I think for large companies, I think just apply through their job careers portal. You know, they usually have teams to manage that. So I would kind of just follow their instructions.
I think what Laura means is sending an application to potentially recruiters on LinkedIn without having an open job. And I receive too many of these every day. And as much as I love hearing from passionate individuals who are looking for that next step, unfortunately, I must say that no human is able to remember all of these. Also, because our recruiting scopes oftentimes are limited to a certain level, certain geography, certain function, certain part of the organization, that oftentimes is listed in our LinkedIn profile, but vast majority, and I will go as far as to say 9 out of 10 candidates do not read it, which means that we are just bombarded with unsolicited applications, and unfortunately, it's just not possible. What is worth trying is worth identifying hiring leaders and teams where you see your skill set and interest being fit, and then possibly not, you know, applying unsolicited, but reaching out to these individuals to learn, you know, to have an exploratory discussion, or you know, to see if there was potentially in near future an opportunity in that particular team, while highlighting your experiences and capabilities. I think that potentially would be the best way to go about it.
Okay.
Career break and no professional references.
I would use the previous employer, or just whoever. If you have a career break, it means you had a career before then, and then you would have reported into someone. So in that case, I would use, even if they were older references, for me, that would be the key.
Yes. Is it worth to join a talent community at a company you're interested in, or respond to an open application without a specific job description?
For me, I think this has low yield. If I think about, you know, stats, some organizations offer it just as a kind of way to funnel right away from the CEO, away from the hiring manager. Some genuinely mean it. I think it also depends if you're in a high demand industry, right? Like if you're a surgeon and you want to apply to the general pool, right? You're a surgeon, they're probably going to try and pick up your application, right? You're going to stand out. But if you're a recruiter, right, there's probably 1,000 other people in that. So for me, it just depends on the situation. But generally, I would say lower yield in terms of getting interviews. I'm interested.
Typically, also very little effort to do that, to be honest. So I don't see a reason why not to. There's definitely no danger or no damage there. So if you are actively looking and you know, particularly interested in that company, I would absolutely do it. And it's the same as on LinkedIn, following that company, or you know, showing your interest in the company page. Absolutely do it. If that's your dream place to work, do it, because as a recruiter who looks for talent, and this is going to be a segue to the next question, as a recruiter who looks for talent on LinkedIn, I do notice when I see a candidate popping up on my search who is following the company site, who has expressed interest. I absolutely do take that into consideration. And Natalie is saying, you know, competitive job market, yet we are complaining that we can't find the right talent for many vacancies. So what is going on, Sam?
I've definitely heard, obviously, we know it's a competitive market. I haven't honestly seen recruiters complain about not finding the right talent. What I hear recruiters complaining about is talent sounding like everyone else because they're getting mass applications and everything is written by AI. And the challenge isn't necessarily that. I think that's where what I'm hearing more of anyway. But again, I'm going to pass that one back to you, Dana. And
Yes, look, I agree, Sam. That very much is the case. The volumes are absolutely all-time high. It doesn't make it any easier that everybody has a polished resume, sounding the same, using the same buzzwords, mirroring the same keywords from the job post. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that, if everyone sounds the same, who do I talk to? However, at the same time, I must say that there still are highly niche roles that require very, very particular expertise, and there's still plenty of those out there that, if you need Six Sigma belt, and if you need at least 10 years of experience, if you need to have led at least a 200 upwards sizable team in order to manage the complexity of what this particular part of the organization is looking to accomplish, oftentimes we see that there is not so many applications, and potentially this is what Natalie is referring, that there is still a lot of areas where the jobs stay open for a long time, and recruiters are forced to directly approach talent for these roles, which means, even if you're not actively looking, do take time to list all the particular certifications and experiences and languages on your LinkedIn, because recruiters are still on there headhunting for talent that match their requirements.
Last question.
Marcela, if you have 10 years experience, how likely it is to be considered for entry-level roles where 2 years of experience is required? Should we downgrade our experience, Sam, to be considered for those roles?
For me, it's a no. Your experience is your experience, right? So trying to morph or hoodwink or play down, right? It just tells me, it's not something I would recommend, right? I think it's a lower likelihood to be considered for entry-level roles. Many people are trying to do that because obviously they need income, they need revenue, and the general perception is like, oh, this person's only looking for a role just now, but then they might bounce, right? When the market picks up or something, right? That's a generalization of how people might perceive it. But ultimately, your experience is your experience. So I don't think you should make your resume feel something that it is not, is my advice.
Yes, absolutely. I agree, Marcela. And if you are looking to enter that space, which is why you are, looking for an entry-level role, thinking that this may help you pivot, absolutely do it, but make sure that it's very clear that that this is why you're applying for that particular role. Potentially look for other opportunities to gain more experience in that particular area, such as taking on an assignment or volunteering or communities or associations that could potentially connect you with that space. Career break. This is always a tricky one, Sam. How do you return to work after having 2 years of a break?
My approach in resumes is just to give a quick explanation about, why you left your most recent role. If you can, if it's just an objective reason, if it was a layoff, right? So you might say, if it was 2 years ago and you were laid off, then you might say laid off as part of a 10% reduction in workforce, full stop. You might say took a career sabbatical from X to Y date. That tells me, oh, okay, there was a career sabbatical or time off, and this person has been looking since December, right? That's one way that I would maybe consider, is just leading with as many facts as possible.
Yes, Absolutely. I have my maternity break of 4 years very proudly displayed on my CV. I listed all the charities and all the volunteering that I did during that time. I listed the language certification that I obtained, and I joined a career returners organization that supported people who were looking for roles after a break. That gave me truly strong support and introductions with employers who were dipping into this space, and I survived it. So I really hope that that Zahra, you get the support that you're looking for and get the
Should do two more questions because Dr. Dave, we've already kind of explained that question, and then we'll pause there.
All right, let's do that. So Feliciana is asking, when a company opens the same role across various countries, are we really competing on talent or mostly on labor cost? Are they really looking for the best talent or the lowest cost? I don't think there's an answer to this, to be honest. There is typically there is a good reason why roles are opened across a variety of locations. Sam, do you have any thoughts on this?
When I recruited, it was genuinely about the best talent, right? Because opening up in 3 different markets means 3 times the volume that you have to deal with in terms of applications. And recruiters don't just open, in my opinion, wouldn't just open the floodgates that way to receive applications because it's more work for the team. So in my experience, it has been about getting the best talent.
Yes, 100%. And in the end, it always depends on the team and the organization on how they go about it. But 9 out of 10 times I've seen this happen, it really is the team looking for the strongest talent. Which question?
Rohan.
We pick up? Rowan Mehra is asking, how do you network with a purpose? I tried reaching out to people, trying to share ideas, understand their perspective, mostly get ignored and feels quite defeating.
If you're reaching out to people to share ideas, okay, networking with a purpose, if you're trying to understand their perspective on something, you are asking for their time. And if they don't know you, then and it's not getting you results, then rather than networking by reaching out to people, I would start creating of something of value that draws people in to start a conversation. So for me, if the traditional approach of outbound is not working for you, how can you start sharing your own ideas on posts on LinkedIn, sharing your own perspectives on something, and then inviting conversation to that post is what I would try instead if you're not getting any results with your current process.
And I will just add to that, Sam, that try having a conversation with Gen AI about this topic. I think you will get a lot of interesting ideas on meaningful networking, on what can be done. And I'll finish off by saying, offer help instead of asking for help. You'll see a very, very different type of response, and you have a lot of knowledge and experience and ability to support others. And that way is the best way to build your network, because once you build a network of people you've helped, imagine how supportive they will be once you need it. But that requires time and a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
And Marcus, maybe the last one.
Yep.
Marcus is asking, what aspects are you looking at in a screening process to understand the leadership style a candidate is bringing in and whether that matches with your company culture?
I have a very strong opinion on this one.
Go for it.
Marcus, in my opinion, leadership style and matching company culture can't be determined from the resume. Only hard skills can be determined from the resume. So if I'm reading a resume and it's a leadership role, I'm not trying to say what's the style of leadership, because I can only assess that in an interview and understanding your experiences. What I'm looking for in a resume if I'm hiring for a leader is, have you previously led a team? What size is that team? what's your retention rate, right? Then I know, okay, I'm hiring someone at the appropriate professional level. If it's a director level role with 4 direct reports, generally I'm going to want someone that has either reported into the VP or the CEO, depending what my organization looks like, and direct report experience. Then I would, and potentially, if they were a fit, invite for an interview and then understand leadership. So that can't be determined at the resume stage, in my opinion.
Fully agree. I'm thinking Marcus may be meaning screening process as the initial screening interview, in which case I can assure you, Marcus, I can assure you nobody's going to ask you what is your leadership style. You will be asked, tell me about your team leadership experience to date. Tell me what's important to you. Tell me, how do you assess whether the right next step is the right one for you. Tell me about the tough situation and how you handled it with your direct reports, or is leading people important to you? And this is going to give you a gateway to demonstrate what is important to you, how do you lead, what do your team says about you, how have your maybe how have your net promoter scores have changed since you took over a particular team, or has what has been shared from your leadership, or why have they asked you to take on a certain challenge because your your reputation of a strong people leader has preceded you, or things like that. These are things typically you will never be asked about the leadership style, or what kind of company culture do you thrive in. This is not going to be asked. The interviewers will be looking throughout other questions to hear if it's important how you lead a team, or is it only, and I've seen it all, or I'm only caring about the product that we do, or I'm only caring for the growth. This is the numbers. I've increased the sales by 15%. This is why I'm so successful. And that way the interviewer will be assuming, oh, okay, well then clearly whether the team is thriving and growing and developing their careers, it doesn't matter for you, right? It's as long as we increase our sales. So these are the questions that in the interview, in the screening interview, you will be asked to assure what's important to you, and whether you will be a good match for that team or that company.
Sorry, so I'm obsessed with
two
resume.
Different ways. I know, but hey, I think both highly relevant. So I think regardless whether it's a resume or whether it's a one-on-one conversation, I think it's a great question, Marcus. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Look, I know we started a little late, but then we warmed up, and that was a lot of great, meaningful questions from the audience. So we've gone beyond the time. Thank you so much to all of you, all 90 of you until very recently that stayed with us and listened in. Please continue with your questions. Sam and I will keep an eye on the event. There will be the recording available, whether you started late or you wanted to rewatch. Sam will be sharing some of the material that he mentioned earlier. He's got a wonderful YouTube channel where he shows hands-on what the magic that he does with the CVs. If that is relevant for you, please follow him and take a look there. And there will be the next conversation in a little less than a month that I am sure you will like. And the topic for that will be how to find meaning in your career. So very, very different from this one, but absolutely critical in the times of change. Thank you, Sam.
Anna. Thank you.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.